Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. Here we are talking about the covenant and exciting place here in August of the aspect of, we talked yesterday quite a bit about what it means to be blessed, and you're, of course, going to be able to share when you come back, and we'll pick this up with your trip to Ireland. That's kind of fun. Where are you flying into, by the way?
So we're flying into Dublin, okay, and then we will head out to Galway right away. So we have a nonstop from Boston into Dublin. So, it's actually almost the same amount of the flight as it takes us to get over to see you in Colorado.
I know it. Yeah.
So it's a pretty quick flight over there, which is nice. So we'll fly into Dublin. We'll actually take a train out to the other side of the coast and start our trip in Galway for a few days, and then take the train back over and spend the second half of the week in Dublin.
Okay.
Fly back out of there.
Where are you guys staying?
We have an Airbnb in Galway, that we do. We tend to do that, especially a group of 8 of us.
Yeah.
It's easier when we have a kitchen and we can have multiple bedrooms and split everybody up accordingly and whatnot. So in Galway, we have an Airbnb. When we're in Dublin, we're actually staying at a little hotel called the Temple Bar Hotel, which is right downtown in the Temple Bar area, and will put us walking distance to pretty much everything we want to do.
Nice.
So that should be really fun.
Yeah.
And God has already given our family a couple of assignments that we know of while we're there. So we're excited to see how that all plays out. One of those, we have a dear friend, lifelong, one of Anna's best friends from since she was in kindergarten or so, who is going to be going to Trinity College in the fall. And she'll actually be there a couple of weeks after we get there, and it's super sweet. God actually laid on our heart that part of what we're doing, she's somebody that Anna has really discipled all along. I've taken her through the Abide material, and God has spoken some sweet promises over her, but this last year her faith has exploded. I mean, absolutely exploded. It's so cool to see. Anyway, she's going to be off in Ireland now, forging a new way for herself in college, and that's going to be a challenge of its own. And God has told us part of our trip over there is the 8 of us are to walk the campus and spread out and pray, lay prayer tracks ahead of the work that he wants to do both in Clare and through Clare, that she is sent there, and that we get to be a part of praying ahead of what he's going to accomplish through her and what he continues to grow in her faith there, which is just a really sweet assignment to get to do right in the middle of having fun on vacation, getting to be a part of kingdom work. And He's already told us that's part of it.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Isn't that fun?
It's really fun. When you're in Galway, go over to a place called Ashford Castle.
Okay.
Which you can go. It's right there, and it's a beautiful, magnificent place. Actually, you can even go and have lunch or a dinner there, and it's fabulous. Just a beautiful, worthy of a little bit of a tour, and then just hiking around the grounds. And you're right on the ocean there, so it's really fun. And that's where we told a story about the harpist, but the one that played for Pierce Brosnan, that's where she was headquartered, was playing harp at that Ashford Castle.
Oh, fun.
So I don't know if she's still there or not, but she was pretty magnificent.
Well, I'll have to keep my eyes open. You never know.
Yeah, that's right.
You never know.
So
I did tell you we will also get to do a sheepdog demonstration.
Yes.
While we're there, so that's going to be a fun thing to do.
Yeah. When you get done with that, come back and share that. That'll be That'll be fun, because there's great little lessons of us being sheepdogs. There's a great book, by the way, called Lessons of a Sheepdog by Philip Keller.
Yeah,
that
one
is
of my favorites.
Worthy of doing it. And yesterday we talked about, we were finishing up the concept of fortification, and that it's important to, particularly when things are in a place where we're not fighting a battle, that use it to fortify. And then, of course, he ended it with By the way, it's not just when things are easy, it's all the time. That you're fortifying, and you're fortifying each other to build each other up. And to build each other up is to invite them to the covenant and strengthen them. The covenant, as we're learning, is where we're seeking God's will, living in God's will.
Right.
He's going to deliver the covenant, and then we'll be asked to give it away. And remember, it doesn't mean we're absent of trouble or problems, but rather in those, God will give you victory. So we're excited about that. And he says, do that in community. And then you had a thought about a verse that kind of accentuates that. So why don't you share that verse, then we can talk a little bit about that.
Right. 2 Timothy 2:22. The second part of that verse just really, to me, reiterates this. The whole verse is, flee also youthful lust, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. And I love, to me, that really talks about, pursue faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. And that defines, to me, the community that we're being called to process with and to live life with, and to really share this covenant in. It's a beautiful place, and it talks about motivation. It talks about surrender. There's so many elements to it.
Yep. And again, read the verse again. Pay attention. Let's all pay attention to the first word and the last word. Go ahead and read that.
It says, flee also youthful lust, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart.
Okay, pursue righteousness with those out of a pure heart.
Right.
Okay. When it says pursue righteousness, what does that mean? Pursuing who?
You're pursuing Jesus,
yeah,
really.
You see, God is righteous.
Yeah.
When it says pursue righteousness, it doesn't say go try to do everything right.
It's not pursue perfection.
It's pursue righteousness, and we know something. He is righteousness. And so it's pursuing with him in his kingdom, walking with him, and then he ends it with those that have a pure heart. Okay, now, on what basis do I have a pure heart?
Simply on the basis of Jesus.
So it's an interesting circle. He says, have a heart to pursue righteousness. And pursuing righteousness is you are willing to deny self, take up the cross, and follow him, pursuing the life of him. By so doing, you demonstrate you have a pure heart. Because God, it just says the pure heart is just have a heart to go.
Right. And so really it's pursue Jesus with people who have a heart to pursue Jesus.
Okay. Now say that again, because it's that profound and that simple. It's what? It's what? Go ahead and say that again.
Pursue Jesus with people who have a heart to pursue Jesus.
So that's it. He says, in the process of edification and building each other up, he said it starts and ends with pursuing Jesus with others who have a heart to pursue Jesus.
Right.
Now, if you do, together, you're going to be edified, you're going to be strengthened, you're going to enjoy the fellowship of the sweetness of the covenant because you're going to follow him who's going to give you the covenant.
Right.
And then he says, and this is why your inner circle is so critical, you and your spouse, singles, you and your friends, all of us, our inner circle it's really simple. First of all, do I have a heart to pursue Jesus?
Right.
And then others around me, well, do they have a heart to pursue Jesus? Then we can go that together. And if they don't, it's okay. Just don't have them part of your inner circle.
Right.
Because it's going to be conflicting. It's going to be, well, yeah, but no, that's not true. No, you can't believe that.
And that doesn't mean you're not friends with them. That doesn't mean they're not in certain spheres with you.
That's right.
But that is not your inner circle who you're processing to seek God's will with and really have that affirmation of his word. And
then he says, while you're doing that, and then he gives the description of what you're going to be receiving and learning. So go ahead and read that again. Let's listen to, as you edify, and you're pursuing Jesus, he said, this is what you're going to start to grow in. And go ahead and give that list again. Pursue righteousness. Go ahead, start there.
Pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart.
Okay, so pursue faith. And again, faith is believing what he has to say. He's the author and finisher of it. We have to help each other, and this is what you and I do all the time. Is people are around us, and they have stuff going on, and our first question, well, what did God say about that? And I'm going to help them pursue faith of, well, what did God say? And it could be, I'm not sure yet. I don't know. Okay, let's process.
Or I didn't even consider asking him yet.
I didn't know what that means yet.
Let's be honest, sometimes it's that.
And then faith, remember, faith is both. It's hearing, but then it's believing. And so I say, what is God saying? This. Do you believe it? And the answer usually is, well, not yet. Okay, let me help you stay with it. Pursue righteousness. He'll give you the faith to believe it. Pursue love is God's favor and his perspective, interesting enough, to bring us into the covenant. Is my love is to invite you to the very, very best, which I can deliver, God speaking.
Right.
And I love you so much that I'm going to keep inviting you to receive it, and I'm going to also give you the privilege or the opportunity, if you choose to walk away, I'm not going to force you to. That's interesting enough. That's love all by itself. I'm not forcing you to. It's by invitation, and I'm going to, and that's why when we join God in his love, and you can read this in 1 John, it says we love because he first loved us.
Right.
And then secondly, he said love is actually hearing God and then delivering what God wants to do with somebody else, not you deciding what they should do. And so love is learn that together. And then he says peace, and the word there is the equivalent of shalom, which is favor, God's supernatural work, all the things that I'm going to do to deliver to you the covenant. And he says, and I really love that we're reminded of this verse, is fellowship looks like that.
Right. Right.
How fantastic is that? And we would encourage everybody who's listening or watching is really don't get lazy in this area. That, well, yeah, I've got a couple friends, or yeah, I've got Christian people around me. It's no, are you and your spouse, you and your close friend working together to seek God's will? Do you have an inner circle that you can bring things to together that are going to help you receive wisdom, insight, God's will, faith, love, peace? And I'm going to do that with you, and you do that with me, and you're going to experience fortification.
Yeah. Can I just make a note on that too, is those type of relationships take intentionality. And I think sometimes we hear that and we think, okay, I have to be intentionally with them. And when we're together, if that's going to be my inner circle, we're always going to be in God's word together. We're always going to be.
Yeah.
And it's life together.
Yeah.
It's enjoying life together. So sometimes even, I've shared with you before that God really gave me some very specific instructions for the summer that he's told me just to kind of hold. And one of the things he instructed me on was being very intentional in investing in certain relationships with zero agenda. That the agenda was invest in the relationship and have fun together, because in that the rest will come naturally. But these are people who absolutely adore God, and he wants to build the fun of the friendship around that too. And just like when we all get together we'll be at your house again in September for some taping, there will be more fun and laughter and silly moments amidst all of the incredible God supernatural moments that happen too. Because it's not just one or the other. It's not a compartmentalized friendship or community. It is a community that he has woven together to do life and to enjoy life in the abundance of life together. But it takes intentionality and investing in it.
Yeah, and when you think of, part of the sweetness of fellowship is fun. It's laughter. It's enjoying things together. It's when you go on your trip to Ireland, you'll go deeper in processing things together, but you'll just be going out sightseeing.
Right.
And there'll be funny things to see and interesting things to see, and you're having fun.
Funny things that happen.
And
Yes.
you're pursuing life, righteousness, and you're pursuing love and pursuing peace. So it's not a program, and it's not only Bible study or even trying to work through everything, but rather it's intimacy in life. And life is supposed to be sweet. Life is supposed to be enjoyable. Life is supposed to be fun and funny. And there'll be moments of sadness, and the Bible says there's a time for everything, and you walk through that together as well. But fundamentally, the enthusiasm of life is really the joy of the life that's available to us, and mostly that's going to occur through people that are walking with you together, with that freedom of, I don't have an agenda with you. Let's just go enjoy life together. And we'll give these opportunities to share, but it's really going to be special. So we'll process that as we go. But thank you for bringing that up. That community is really pursuing it with people that have a heart to pursue God. And of course, the first question is, do you have one?
Yes, you're right.
Because you can't have others around you unless you do as well. So, as we go further in this, one of the other aspects of the covenant, and this relates to what you've been talking about, is specifically to give it away. And you're blessed to be a blessing. What does it mean to be a blessing? What does it mean to give it away? We know we're called to do that, and that's part of the covenant. And one thing we need to keep remembering is it's a flow through.
Right.
It's never just give me blessing, isn't that great? No, I'm going to give it to you so that it flows through you. And the more it flows through you, the more you'll receive and the more you'll give it away. And guess what? The person next to you who will be the recipient of what you give away will start to learn that, and they'll go a flow-through process. So it's always flow-through. It's never just one way. So let's look at what it means to give it away. And there's, first of all, there's a story about Jesus himself about the purpose of this. So it's a little bit lengthy, but go ahead and read it. It's 67 through 80, Luke 1, 67 through 80.
Sure. It says, "Now his father Zacharias was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied, saying, 'Blessed is the Lord God of Israel, for he has visited and redeemed his people, and has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spoke by the mouth of his holy prophets, who have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us, to perform the mercy promised to our fathers, and to remember his holy covenant, the oath which he swore to our father Abraham, to grant us that we, being delivered from the hand of our enemies, might serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all the days of our life. And you, child, will be called the prophet of the highest, for you will go before the face of the Lord to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of salvation to his people by the remission of their sins through the tender mercy of our God, with which the day spring from on high has visited us, to give light to those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. So the child grew and became strong in spirit, and was in the deserts till the day of his manifestation to Israel."
Okay, so Zacharias is prophesying about Jesus, and they understand, he's going to be born here, coming. God's sending the Messiah to come as a baby, but he gives a prophecy of what he's about ready to do, and he says he's bringing salvation, and the word salvation really has a broader meaning than what typically we associate with it, which typically is, it's a ticket to heaven. I'm saved. I get to go to heaven. Well, he says, no, you brought salvation, and the word there is healing, deliverance, wholeness. Ultimately, I'm bringing the covenant for people to experience. So you're going to bring the covenant that we should be released from the enemies, to perform the mercy or the covenant loyalty of the fathers, and to remember his holy covenant. So he understands that this whole thing that you're coming to earth is about us, first of all, to have the opportunity to even have a righteous relationship with you, because we're not.
Right.
And then we're stepping into the covenant that was been delivered to Abraham and now given to us through Christ, that we might follow him. And in verse 74 it says, so that we could do what? Serve him in holiness and righteousness all the what?
All the days of our life.
Okay, so it's not good luck and struggle through life. No, it's to serve God in the covenant all the days of your life, because salvation is all of it. And he says, what is going to happen is starts in verse 77. First of all, I'm giving you the privilege of it because the remission of sins. But then he says, I'm giving you the knowledge, the knowing, the experience of salvation. And salvation, keep thinking salvation when we see it in Scripture, bigger than it's healing, deliverance, and think of it as covenant life. I've come to bring you covenant life and the experience of that covenant life. And then he says in verse 79, to do what?
To give light to those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death. Okay,
so who sits in darkness? Now this is, it goes even more profound than we think, but who sits in darkness?
Those who haven't seen Christ yet.
Okay, unbelievers.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any light in them. They're living in complete darkness. Remember, this is a spiritual issue.
Right.
You're not seeing the truth because you haven't received it yet. So he said, you need to bring that message to those.
But then sometimes it's also other believers who haven't heard God's word on something or been brought to the light in whatever it is they're facing even.
Right, because in the flesh, he said you're at enmity against God, and actually you've walked back in the darkness. And interesting enough, it's even a little bit more dangerous in terms of our current living than an unbeliever. An unbeliever kind of knows it, that I'm captain of my life and I have to do with whatever I got to do.
Right.
A believer says, I think I'm following God, but really they're in darkness, which they think is light. And by the way, it's going to happen. It says, we talked about this in End Times Friday, it's going to happen more and more and more, deception of I actually come against the truth because I've got twisted. I'm a believer, but I'm living in darkness. He says, okay, so your role is to join God in what? Bringing light. So when you give it away, what really are you doing? Well, I'm bringing you Christ, the truth of Christ, the life of Christ, so that you can go from darkness to the light. And by the way, not what I decide, but rather what God is going to show you at the moment of your life. And I'm going to have you experience that. And then as you do that, it says in verse 79, you'll be guided. And by the way, feet means you'll walk into what? The way of what? Shalom.
Right.
Because it's covenant. So that as you give it away, there will be, and we'll talk about this, there'll be some specific things, like, for example, there's times where he's going to say, I want you to give that person money, or I want you to donate something, and it's physical, or I want you to just go spend time with them, and I just want you to be with them right now, and just walk with them a little bit. Well, that's a physical thing, and it is specific. But fundamentally, for what purpose? He says, when you give it away, it's that you, and he's talking, us who are living in the covenant, you're living in the light. And again, it's really simple, and we actually talked about it when you gave us that verse this morning. I'm living in light because I'm pursuing what?
Because I'm pursuing God.
I'm pursuing righteousness.
Yeah.
And by definition, the only way I can do that is if I have a heart to follow. Which means I've denied self and I've taken up the cross and followed him. And if I'm with him, I'm in the light.
Right.
Okay, the light that you're experiencing, I want you to help others to get to that same place. and invite them to that same place so that they can come out of darkness. And by the way, and this is something that is important because of how we tend to think, is we can see, I know where they're in darkness. Yeah, they're really blowing it here. They're really messing up here. They're really not doing the right thing there. So I'm going to set them straight. And we tell them the what. And God says, that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's you may speak the truth, and what you're doing isn't of God, and I'd like you to reconsider. But would you be willing to come and let God guide you into His shalom? And I'll walk with you, because I know what the light looks like, and I'm going to assist you in that process. And I know something. If you live in the light, if you pursue righteousness, you will live in the covenant. And we know something about the covenant. It's blessed to be a blessing. The issues you got, the problems you got, the fear you got, the anxiety you got, the sticky wicket that doesn't make any sense to you at all, and you have no hope, God can bring it.
Well, and as you say that, I'm just reminded of the fact that Jesus is the light, and our only responsibility, like you said, is not to tell them the what, it's to bring them to the light. Honestly, right. It's John 8:12. Jesus spoke to them saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And so our job is bringing them to His feet, period.
And as you think of Zechariah's prophecy, which he's prophesying about Jesus, he says, I know you've come. You're coming to bring the light. I know you're coming to bring salvation. I know you're coming to guide people's path. And he says, you've come to, first of all, give us a privilege of being able to receive it, and then you're going to give it away. And so when we think of giving it away, it's the life of God that we get to experience. We join Him in His purpose, because why? Christ lives within us, and we're the visible expression of the invisible God. To let Christ bring them, because that's His purpose. Let me bring you to the light. Let me guide you to shalom. And it's more than just a ticket to heaven. It's living in the covenant. As He said, I want you, and He even stated it. This is about the covenant. And God says, yeah, I know that is about the covenant. So as we give it away, it's help them walk in their life, in the circumstances of their life, in the light, in salvation, in wholeness, in the covenant, in shalom. And our heart is to give it away by what? I know that if you do, it's going to be fantastic. So let me help you get there. And I'm going to care about that. And so it's a beautiful thing to experience the life of the covenant, to be blessed, which means we have to be there, and then we give it away. And we'll go into more depth about this, because it does get really wonderful to understand what is all this about. But it sets it up and said it's really about helping people live the life of God. And by the way, you and I know this, there's nothing greater to see somebody's light bulbs go on, like, oh, that's what it's like. And then they experience the beautiful life of God, and the resolution happens, and they get really excited about now living this life. So it's nothing better than that. And then
as they do, the ripple effects that go out from there are incredible. To watch the people that God uses to impact their circle as well. It's just beautiful.
Well, we'll pick it up again tomorrow with more of what it means to give it away. But it's just a great reminder of the privilege that we have, and we get to enjoy it. And I wish you, by the way, you're going to be giving it away on your trip, and I can't wait to hear the exciting stories of the blessed covenant. And I bet your family's excited too. So.
Oh my goodness, so excited!
All right. Well, listen, have a great trip, and we'll see you when you get back.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and just have a blessed day walking in the light.
All right. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, And tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.